But I also hope, and I have heard of some people that actually seen the film and they feel like they just want to go home and like hug their kids, or that they want to appreciate the people that they love even more now that they have them.
Vare sig du vill eller inte.
Handling the undead is a very deep experience. What made you want to take a more subtle approach to the dead returning to like from the grave?
I think it was it's based on a book by the same name. So for me, reading that book, I think that was the essence of the book, on exploring the deep or like the profound but impossible wish that we all have to like actually have the dead come back, and what that would look like. And I think I'm in general more interested in the humanistic, philosophical, existential questions.
I know I had to go back through and like I had zombie listed, and every time I was like, it doesn't feel right for this movie. Technically they are, but it doesn't feel right to call them that. Oh, and I'm a big fan of Let the Right One In. So what was it like to work with John Lindqvist on this story?
It was amazing. He's very generous and he gave me a lot of trust. So that was great. But in fact, I actually inherited the script from... He adapted it for another director 15 years ago. So I inherited like an adaptation, and then he gave me the permission to rewrite it how I wanted it. So he's been very supportive and very nice. And he's a very like fun man, even though his stories are very dark and emotional, I guess. But he's very generous and nice.
Well, and when you approach something like that, where it's an established work, how do you feel about changing things? Like, are you very like particular about what gets changed, or keeping things how they are? How do you go? Because especially he has such a reputation, I'd be worried about changing too much.
So I was very worried for a long time, but there was also something about the script that didn't work as well, like because he had already made some changes from the book, and of course the book is like too big to fit into to one feature. So it took me quite a while, and that's why I had to like rewrite it myself as well, just to like understand more of the scenes and the characters, and also gradually feeling that I could remove some of the stuff and still trust that it would work. So it took some time.
Did you use any specific films for inspiration?
Absolutely. I think there's one film called Innocence by Thea Hvistendahl, which for me kind of opened the door to what horror could also be. And I think that it's more like, it depends what you call like a mystery drama, mystery horror drama, or something like that. Or then it has like a lot of poetic feeling to it. And I think that film kind of opened to me what horror could also be, and how the uncanniness or the unsettling feeling is what attracts me, I think, to the genre. And in that film particularly, she's very good at like withholding information, and that's also what makes it intriguing.
Well, and I think that's one thing that works really well in the movie. And that's one thing I like in a zombie tale, is to not explain the origins. And there's a great moment where like the power fluctuation, it's kind of hinted that there's something to do with that is the reason for the dead rising. It reminded me of like the satellite explanation in Night of the Living Dead. So I loved that so much. So thank you for that. And I'm curious, with a film that's so full of reactions and getting the audience inside the characters' minds, how do you balance when to have music and when to have an intense sound design?
That was actually really hard in this film, because also I thought that maybe, or like before we went into production, actually the composer, he did a sketch for us that we used a lot during the filming as well. So we listened to it while we did the shots. And then I thought that maybe there would be more space for like bigger music as well. But then immediately, like when we started to push parts of the films like more into horror or more dramatic, it kind of lost itself. So it was all this like balancing act and trying to find the score that didn't lead too much, but again could like intensify the emotions when it's needed. And yes, but the intent with the sound design was always to have the sound design make it more unsettling and like highlighting some sounds and using the sounds to make it creepy, kind of.
Well, and I have to know the logistics of the scene where the girl wraps her head in plastic wrap for what feels like forever. How did you go about filming that?
You know what? It was actually like all one shot. Like she comes into the apartment and sees the boy and goes in and then wraps her head and falls down. And Renata, I don't really know how, but she had did some training with the stunt coordinator. But she found a solution to actually wrap her head and not and still be able to breathe somehow. So she was actually doing it all in one, but then we chose to like intercut it so you would actually see what she was doing. Yeah, so I have forgotten to ask her, but I think she had like some kind of breathing thing through here or something.
When you're doing something like that, what is the like backup? Like, do you have someone off camera with a razor blade that's ready to like cut at her mouth? Like,
no, but I think like she wasn't really holding her breath, so she was breathing, so it's all acting. So that's so we didn't actually have that. I can't remember if the stunt coordinator was there on set or if they just practiced beforehand. I was more worried about the fall, but she practiced that as well. So she's just really good. But actually, what was fun was that the actor, like her father, he hadn't seen her doing it before. So when he was like sleeping, and then when he suddenly saw it, he was like panicked and by the looks of it,
I can imagine, because whenever I watch a scene like that, it's like I'm always looking for like the movie magic, and I rewound and watched it again because I'm like, when, how did they manage this? So that's incredible. And I know that this was based on a book, but the big thing that I noticed during it is that you're very good about, even though this is a like small story focused on the three families, you hint at a much larger thing going on. And so was that always like a budget necessity, or did you always just want to tell a smaller story?
It was not actually out of budget necessity, but ultimately it helped, I guess. But it was more because I had more of that part like in the film first or in the script, and it's also a bigger part in the book. But the thing was that once you start to say something, it adds another question and then another question, and then I found myself just like trying to answer all these questions, and in the end, it's not really possible because there is like no reason. And then it was also I did a lot of writing on this film during COVID. And then I did some passes and I was like, oh my God, this is now turned into a COVID film because of like how people were wearing masks and asked not to go out. Yeah. So it was like a mix of me realizing that I wasn't so interested in the society part because it's also been done a lot of times and I didn't feel like it actually had something new to say about it. And then the fact that the more information you give, the more question arises.
I think that one of the most poignant messages that I got from the film is that like focusing on the deceased in an unhealthy way will just result in the destruction of the living. And so what message do you hope the audiences get from the film?
I think it's actually what you said right there, but I also hope, and I have heard of some people that actually seen the film and they feel like they just want to go home and like hug their kids, or that they want to appreciate the people that they love even more now that they have them.
I think that the next big loss that I have in my life, that this is going to be a movie that I absolutely think about, because there is that thought where it's like, well, you do want that person back, but then what does that actually mean? So it's very thought provoking, and I really, really enjoyed the film. So thank you so much for talking with me. This has been wonderful.